So that sounds like that's over an A. Then you got that and it gets into the song, right? So I'm feeling that now. Scrub to the middle of the song, and the notes of the bridge are exactly the same as that intro, but the chords are different than that. It's now in the key of D because he's modulated there. So.
Like that actually gave me chills right there.
And it's just a dreamscape. It's like being inside of a kaleidoscope, you know? Go ahead and cut it. Yeah. So now instead of...
All right, welcome back to the In My Beach Boys Room podcast. I am Adam Schreiner, and I'm sitting here with Matthew Hartz, and it is time for the musical breakdown of Pet Sounds.
Yes.
Here we go. Here we go. So as you can see right away, behind us, we are back in the, what do you call this, late 60s room?
Yeah, for everything from 60 Pet Sounds through the end of the decade.
So we were in season 1 was the last time we were in this room.
Really?
Yeah. So because in season 2 started in Sunflower, and then you have the early 70s room.
It's been a while.
It's been a while since we've been in this room. So
it's one of my favorite rooms.
Yeah, no, when I sat down and I was like, oh, look behind me. This is really cool. Your shots behind you. It's cool room here. So and this is where we're going to be for the next couple episodes.
We're going to be in this room in different spots.
Just rotating, kind of rotating.
Until the end of this season.
Yeah, and so eventually there'll be a full rotation where, I'm in Matthew's position, and because we always like to put what we're breaking down behind Matthew, but you still get the cool stuff behind me. So, but as you can see, smile and friends and all that stuff. So, but anyway, this is the Pet Sounds musical breakdown episode. This episode has a definite partner episode to it, and it was from season 1, and it was called The Legendary Pet Sounds. That was our 7th episode that we ever did. It's kind of funny. I re-listened to it and kind of listened to how we used to do things. 7 episodes in, we've definitely come a long way with how we do these things,
or at least change things up.
Yeah, and just like even like my knowledge, I've
that's always.
But it was almost like when I was listening to myself, which I don't really like to do that much. But I was listening to, just how little I really knew. 7 episodes in, and even when I listened to like Pet Sounds, because I'd heard Pet Sounds before, but not really, not really, other than the main songs, Wouldn't It Be Nice, God Only Knows. So even listening to like how I interpret things was just kind of like, wow, I really have learned a ton going through all this.
That's why it's so much fun going through these 60s albums with you, because I knew, you had built that knowledge over that first season, and then I'm almost really glad we did it this way, because it had, gave you a chance to digest some history and some context and everything like that, and then go back and dive into the music
itself.
And so it's been really fun to do that.
And that's in the first episode. So the Legendary Pet Sounds episode, that's where you're going to get all the history. It's an hour long. Matthew tells me all the history. He even briefly will go through each track. Doesn't really get into like the music details or anything like that, just kind of brushes over who's on it, some of the songwriting stuff, but nothing real deep like what we're about to get into today.
Right.
So it's a true complimentary episode to this episode. So I do think that everybody should probably, if you haven't watched that and listened to that, to listen to that first, and then go back and then listen to this one. I'll throw a link right to that episode in the description, so that way it's just real easy. Stop right now. Go do that first. Before we get into that, do our usual stuff that you're supposed to do when you have a podcast, and that is tell you to like, subscribe, or ask you to like and subscribe to the podcast. Share it, do all those things that help us continue this thing to grow. It is growing. I mean, it's pretty cool how we've really seen a ramp up in views and comments, and always love the feedback and the comments that you give. Mm-hmm. this time there were no sponsors that wanted to be acknowledged personally, so we'll just leave it anonymous. And thank you those for supporting and sponsoring this podcast. And so we're going to go ahead and throw a QR code up now. If you want to sponsor the podcast, you can either follow the link in the description below, or you can use this QR code, scan it with your phone. It'll take you right to the website where you can fill out the little form and you know, send the money in whatever way is easiest for you. Whether it's PayPal, Venmo, or we'll even write you, or we'll even take a check if you would rather just write a check. So that's pretty much it. I think the only thing really we're saying is that, you know, we have a couple gaps of time in the next coming weeks where we're going to try to get a few more of these out quicker than we had the previous one. There was quite a bit of time between the last two episodes that, you know,
schedules
it just didn't allow for us to get together.
Yeah.
So, we're going to try to be better and at least hammer a couple of these out real quick for you. And then, besides that, though, I think...
On the easy things like pet sounds and smile.
Yeah. So I guess you wanted to talk a little bit about your vocals.
Yeah, I did wanted to. A lot of our listeners are probably thinking, "Wow, Matthew cannot sing." And you know what, folks? I never have liked my voice, but I used to be able to sing better than I can now. And a few years ago, I started noticing something going wrong. And last year, while I was with Asleep at the Wheel, it became really evident to me. And I remember when we were even doing those introductory educational videos. I remember, you remember me struggling with it.
Yeah.
I said, I don't know what's going on, but I can't even sing Mary Had a Little Lamb. I can't sustain notes. And so long story short, I've been through a several month process with some specialists, and I have something called dysphonia, probably spasmodic dysphonia. It happens to a lot of singers. Famous folks include like Alison Krauss, Keith Urban, there's some other people. And so it's not something that's super rare, but it is kind of rare. And I'm excited to maybe go through some procedures that might improve that for me. But if you guys hear me struggling with la today, and every time I hear myself in those things, I just cringe. But anyway, not that I'm trying to gain any sympathy or anything like that. I wanted to explain that a little bit, because I feel like some people might have noticed that.
Oh yeah. Well, and
it doesn't affect my speaking voice, which is weird, but it is the singing voice. And when you put your voice in different spots, and especially when I try to sustain notes and certain vowels and certain spots, anyway, blah, blah, blah.
And I think for the most part in this kind of educational format where you're just kind of, it's not as noticeable, because it almost seems that like you're trying to sing a little softer or a little,
That's because I know how bad it is.
A little weaker, I guess, for lack of a better term. But it just feels like that is, it's probably one of those things that's way more noticeable to you than it is to us. So just keeping that in mind.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So, okay. But I think that's all the stuff.
I want to talk about this old pet sounds, this, you guess what, Adam, on most days?
This is your favorite album? Yeah, it's your favorite album.
Well, it's just kind of in a league by itself. I mean, my goodness, the sophistication of the music, even compared to the stuff that led up to it. I mean, we're into some incredible stuff,
Yeah.
We're into classical music, we're into jazz, we're into avant-garde pop, it's just this whole soup of stuff, and it's amazing. I want to let people know how I prepared for this. I've obviously been listening and playing a lot of these tunes for a long time, but I sat down with what I call my Pet Sounds stack of tracks playlist, which is everything without the vocals, because it really exposes the musical arrangements, obviously, and you can really hear what's going on, or most of it, because there is so much going on, and the arrangements are just so dense that the chords that I'm coming up with are things, again, that try to approximate what's going on in the entire arrangement. but I'm hoping to showcase some chord progressions today, showcase some lines, and especially some bass lines. And I wanted to talk about the new Beach Boy book again, just briefly, because one of the magic things about this book is the giant section devoted to pet sounds. Mm-hmm. And the fact that we have, let's see if this book is so big. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So anyway, I was shocked to find out that we have almost all of Brian's handwritten chord sheets for pet sounds, that I'm assuming these are the deals that were given to the session players. But I know it's his handwriting, and they are so illuminating after listening to these songs for so long and having my own ideas about it, knowing what some other people's ideas, other music theory, folks that, interpret certain chords a little bit differently and all that. It was really cool to see what Brian's idea of what those chords are. And it's a really interesting study. It's funny because his theory wasn't perfect, never was, but at this stage, he was kind of getting into that stuff, and he has little mistakes in these things, out and out chord mistakes. Like, for instance, I think it's in here today, he's got some E flat sevens in there that should be E7s, but just his the way he uses what we call the enharmonic names, and sometimes switching them up in keys when he shouldn't, blah, blah, blah. It's not that big deal. But it's still, everything is there.
Yeah.
Everything is there. And so it was really neat when I was looking at some of these things the last couple of days. If I had a question, I could go to this, and this is like, whoa,
what he was thinking,
even if it's like, oh, he's calling it this, I always call it, but I understand why he's calling it that. And I mean, it's and the bass line is the king. It's the left hand is so inventive, and the way he uses the bass notes to tie chords together, and just really really inventive stuff all the way. So I just wanted to say something about that. And how I was looking at it the last few days. The other thing I want to say is just briefly, Tony Asher, again, the lyricist, that he not only influenced the lyrics on here, but he did some of the music too. And it was just shading this project hugely, obviously. The album was released May 16th. How many days is that from now?
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, we're recording in 2 days. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow,
so I figured that
it's funny how that's
been lining up,
yeah,
man. And it's pretty wild. My birthday's this month too, and so it's kind of fun for me that Pet Sounds was released in my birth month and all that jazz. But I know we already said it, but it went to number 10 in the U.S. So a bit of a disappointment,
right?
And it was and so Capitol rushed out that Best of Beach Boys that quickly overtook it and killed any momentum Pet Sounds was building on the release of the singles and everything like that. It's just, it really did thwart it here in the U.S., but it needs to be said that in England, it went to number 2 and it stayed on the charts for a long time. That commercially and critically, it was received on a huge level over there. So, and thank God.
Yeah.
Is what I've got to say on that. So basically, that's kind of the historical reference stuff I want to do on it. And now we can just kind of get into the music if you want to.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so
let's. Yeah, here we go. Before you get into it, I just did my, critical listening, took my notes. A lot of my stuff is just how it makes me feel, whether it's right, wrong, this is just kind of the opinion thing, you know what I mean? For the most part, I love everything on here, except for, I like everything on here. So wouldn't it be nice? And if you've been around long enough, you know that we do have the video out where Matthew plays four instruments.
A couple of guitars and a stand-up bass and
then
the violin.
The violin. And does a cover of that. You can find that. We have a Beach Boys cover section. You can find that. I might even throw that on the end of this episode, honestly. I actually, with this one, have a decent understanding of the music because I was the one to record you do each track and then put it all together. So, the only thing about this, before you get into it, is this is one of those songs for me that if someone was like, this is how I feel about this song. If someone was like, you need to pick a song that you're going to listen to every day, at least once a day, for the rest of your life. So you better pick a song that you're not going to get sick of. This is going to probably be that song, or a top contender, because it's just every time. I've never once gotten sick of it when I hear it. I don't, it's not a song that gets overplayed to me, and so that's really all I have to say about it. That's my feeling, sentiment towards this song.
Wow, I couldn't agree more. Every time that intro comes on, I get goosebumps.
Yeah.
Because I love that, and then I love what comes after it. But I remember my good friend Billy Contreras, and we were talking, and he goes, "Oh, that's at least top 3 for me." And I said, it could be the gold standard.
Yeah.
And I might have said that before in this podcast, but I mean, it's a magical pop song. It's just beautiful, and it's the closest thing kind of to a straight ahead pop tune we've got on this record.
Yeah, I could see that for sure.
Opens the record, and lots of magical stuff going on. Did you have anything more to say about it?
No.
Go ahead and bring up the intro because I want to. We've been talking a lot about intros with The Little Girl I Once Knew and California Girls and that. And the way that Brian will use intros and recycle them back into the bridge. But I think probably what happens is he writes the tunes with the bridge there, and then he will think, wow, I'll take a piece of this bridge and use it for the front end of this thing. And, there's Wendy he does that with, Little Girl. There's a lot of tunes that he ends up doing that with. And this one is a real special one for me just because of at the beginning. Let's go ahead and have you pull up that intro and just play it for us. Okay, cut it. Okay, so right there, that sounds like that's over an A. Then you got that, and it gets into the song, right? So I'm feeling that now. Scrub to the middle of the song, and the notes of the bridge are exactly the same as that intro, but the chords are different than that. It's now in the key of D because he's modulated there. So.
Like that actually gave me chills right there.
And it's just a dreamscape. It's like being inside of a kaleidoscope, Go ahead and cut it. Yeah. So now instead of that's what we think it is on the front end, right? But it's actually it's just, Carl talks it being an inverted bass, and it is. That's why it works, is because they're using the 5 in the bottom a lot, where you think it's the root note on the front end. Okay, so I won't get into that anymore, or get too confusing.
Yeah.
But let me go through how I normally, if I play the tune just on a guitar for somebody, I incorporate the bass line because it's Brian's bass line, but Carol is playing it on the record. And so I'm going to go through the front end of it. Now, right there, that's the bass line with the chords, right? I think actually, in the guitars, I've watched Carl and Al play it live. They never go to that last G minor. They'll just go. and then B flat. But it's the bass that does.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and I listened to the accordions on it, and I wonder, sometimes it feels like the accordions are really doing something simple. I think they do go to that beat, but it's almost kind of... So there's a lot of little tiny things in there that contribute to the feeling of that, right? Then when you get to that next part, which is my after... it's gone. So that's a D minor with the A in the bass, second inversion. It's got to be that. It's got to have that down there. Da, 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 da. And then the E flat with the F in the bottom, magic chord. That much better. Back to D minor with the A in the bass. And then straight up A minor 7. And then G minor 7 and the 5. And then you're back into it, right? You go through it all again. And then after the second time, you got the sax and the accordion. Now, the bridge, I'll go ahead and tell the chord. So I think it's like a D add 9 with an A in the bottom. G major 7, F sharp minor 7, B minor 7 again. Get back to F.
Gosh.
What more can I say? I mean, there's a lot more things that I love about that record, but that kind of encapsulates.
Yeah, that was so cool to see you do that like that. That was awesome. I like it. I like hearing I like it when you played it with the bass, like the chords with the bass line. That was how you do both. I don't know if that's
well, and I figured that out a lot. I did that naturally when I was a kid, just because that bass line is it really defines the movement of that front part. It's essential.
We want to go to the next one. We're ready?
Yeah, let's go ahead. You still believe in me?
You still believe in me. So for me on this one, the vocal harmonies on this are just like angelic to me. They just have, it's like this angelic feel.
You know who else liked them and makes special mention of it?
Who's that?
Paul McCartney.
Oh, really?
He talks about the harmonies.
I think you say that in the other episode, actually. Yeah, and I don't know if there's something, if it's the angelic feel, but there's actually, and this is one of those things, it's probably just me, but there's like, it almost has like a Christmas, there's like something about it reminds me of like Christmas. I don't know if it's what it is about it, but like, that's angelic, spiritual, like sort of.
I've got your answer for it. I don't want to interrupt you.
Yeah, go. Yeah.
Well, remember this song originally? He had this written, the track written before Tony came in, and it was going to be called "In My Childhood."
Right.
So the music is supposed to be tinkly, like a music box, like it should. So I could see the Christmas kind of, and even angelic. It's childlike, and the way the keyboards and the guitars are used, really arpeggiated. It sounds like a music box, like a little.
Okay, so not far off with that.
No. I think that it all lines up really, really, really well with the way you're describing.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it. The only thing is there's which is just a random thing. It's like after I think the last lick, there's like a honk horn or something.
Well, that's because that bicycle horn was in there. That was Brian had Hal play that because it was a song about childhood, and that was going to be the kid honking his bike horn at the end, and they couldn't get it off the track.
Got it. Okay, now, and you actually brought that up in the other episode, but I still wasn't putting all the pieces together.
Hey, there's a lot of information.
And it's a lot of information, a lot of depth to this music. So, but I'll let you take it over from here. That's pretty much all I got.
I want to just kind of run through a little bit of this one, the chord progression. We're in the really easy key of B here. Well, no. Believe it or not, there's some strange keys on this album. He just does this movement. So that's the front end progression. That's just a 1, 2, 5, 1, 2, 5. Very, very, very common. But it feels like a. Doesn't that seem childlike?
Yeah.
Really basic. well, not totally basic. Does that 6 times. I don't know how many I'm at, but then he actually a mini modulation here. He goes to E. Now that right there was basically a 1 to 5 change, but it still was kind of like that 1 to 2 5 in the other key, just with a slightly different bass movement. So I'm going to do that again, and the chord he lands on is pretty magical here, where he goes. Let's see. G sharp 7, and then C sharp minor 7. Then, the way Brian has it in the book is just a B with a C sharp in the bottom of it, this poly chord for the whole measure. And then I love this. I did not know that's what he would have thought of for that. I was playing something else there. That's an E with a B in the bass, and then G sharp minor, and then an E minor with G in the bottom of it. That's the magic chord. So again, you speak. And it's you know, the song being, you know, it's a pretty song about can't believe that this gal, you know, still hanging out with him.
Yeah, and that almost felt kind of lullaby-y too when you were when you were doing it like that.
Childlike, Christmas-like.
Totally.
All that stuff.
Good with that. On to the next.
Yeah, it's just they're also beautiful. I don't want to leave them. You know, it feels like everybody. Whoa, we're leaving a masterpiece.
Yeah, no,
you know? But I mean, I don't have anything. You know, those are the basic things. And if we go into everyone as much as I would like to, this thing would be 6 hours long.
Yeah, 100%.
Remember, up till this album, the Beach Boys were playing on at least half of the record, right? You know, and then when there were, you know, that sometimes there would be a big crew, you know, and I think some of those were that big for some of the ones that were done in 65, but that's a lot of musicians.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that the Beach Boys were, you know, they were on tour in Japan is a big reason why they didn't play more on it. You know, they were on tour, and so he just used the musicians that were available. Mm-hmm. And, you know, when they got back, one of the misgivings they had about it is, how are we going to play this stuff live?
Yeah.
You know, this is complicated, and, you know, there's, you know, all the, you know, so it's pretty, you know, pretty dense stuff for sure.
Yeah.
That being said, we talk about the crew, and then we get to the one song that's not the crew. It's the Wilson Brothers on it. But I'll tell you what, man, this is it. It's still one of my favorite tracks on the album, and I of course love the chord changes in the bass line and the guitar lines, and
the guitar. That's one of my things I have is that little like guitar lick, whatever that happens like after haven't been home in a long time. There's like this little
one of those, right?
Yeah. And that's I mean that is that hits. I was like, oh, that's great. And I think just the composition of how they have, you know, the harmonies in the background, and then how the drums kind of drop out and then come back in, like
how a quirky track.
How everything comes together. I was just like, I loved it. Like, it's almost sometimes when there's a song, it's like, oh, I wish this would happen right here, and then it does. Like, that's what happened for me with this, where it's like, oh, it'd be cool if the drums came back in, and then they come right back in. So yeah, but that's that, you know. I love the tune. Of course, love the fact that the Wilson Brothers plus a few were playing on this thing. I'm going to go through a little bit. Finally got a key of A. And this chord right here, I'm going to call it an E11, I decided. Then that's a B minor 7 with F sharp in the bass, and then C sharp minor,
modulate to F sharp major 7. And then I've got it as that is a B with the F sharp in the bass. I think probably Brian would call it a G minor 7 with the F sharp in the bass, and it can be both. Okay. So then we're into the modulated part of it where I once had a dream, so I packed up and split for the city. And there's a... And then, let's see. And then we're going to go B. So B, B7, E major 7. He does a couple measures of that E major 7, then he hits E7, which is the 5 of A. So we go back and... I won't go through all that again. But then when we come back to the... I once had a dream, so I packed up and split for the city. Same 2 chords, F sharp major 7, B with an F sharp in the bottom. Then let's go up a half step and go G major 7. I soon found out that my C with G in the bottom, G major 7, same thing. And then we're going to go C major 7, C7, and then F major 7. And then I think it goes back to that, and then we're back to the... Anyway, and it fades like that. But I wish I could get into that a lot more than I did. But hopefully that gives people a general idea of what's going on. You got lots of modulations, and it's all just so neatly disguised.
Uh-huh.
But I feel like in this tune, this is one where the listener should really feel those big shifts in those modulations. Is pretty stark. Yeah,
just I don't know, like I said, I wrote, like, I don't know, great choice of separation, I think, and that's just like how they separated everything out in the song. I don't know, the composition as a whole, I don't know exactly, but like there was just something about, I don't know, the movement of the song or whatever that, like you said, it's all tied together real nicely.
I think another thing you might be getting at is, first of all, it's very sparse production-wise compared to the rest of the album. You know, not near as many instruments going on, right? So there's a lot of space to hear those entrances, and that's why, you know, the drums are so dramatic when they do come in, and there's a lot of space to listen to things coming in and out.
Totally.
That, you know?
Yeah.
And I think so they're more defined.
Especially compared to the rest of the album.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Got it. Okay, so then moving on to Don't Talk. So this one, and I say this as, you know, in the most positive sense, it's not my favorite, but there's so many good songs. That doesn't mean I don't like this song. It's just because, you know, my preference of slower songs is just, you know.
And this is a really slow one.
It's a really slow one, but I get it. You know what I mean? I understand that this is a great song.
This is one of the most highest pieces on the record as far as the composition quality of it and everything like that. It's just mind blowing.
And so in the other episode, you talk about the piano breakdown of this song.
And so I wanted you to go ahead and bring that up, just a snippet, because I was shocked when I got the box set, the Pet Sounds box set, to hear this Brian's piano demo of it. It was like, what? This isn't the same thing. And then pretty soon, yes, it is the same song. You can hear those chord changes in there. So go ahead.
And this is the piano demo version, like what the first.
This is what Brian probably recorded right after he wrote it, like, to remember what the chords were and everything. Oh my. Right there, it's a little different from the track. In there too. have you let it play just a little bit. He plays a pretty crazy chord on the end here that's not. Actually, that is. Okay. Go ahead and now bring up the regular track. This is one that I think, and I probably said it in that other episode, that this is rumored to have been a one-take deal. Like this is the track for that they recorded for this was done in one take.
Oh, nice.
See, we just got a bass line representing all of those chords. Of course, we get a couple other notes there. I'm hoping people can hear the relationship there.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and cut it.
I think so. I mean, especially back to back like that. Yeah, that's cool to see how that idea turned, that he put down on the piano turned into that.
I've got my notes in here say, as I was working on it, I started playing it as a slow jazz tune, and it kind of lined itself up like that. I'm going to go through the chords, have to on this, but man, oh man, there are some things that can be interpreted a number of different ways, and I'm not even sure the way that I'm interpreting some of this is, it's just kind of my deal for it. I'm going to say it's in F sharp or G flat.
Yeah,
which we've talked about that. That's not the easy key.
Uh-huh.
I do want to go over some of these chords. So we'll start with the 6. If it's in F sharp, it'd be D minor 7, and then I'm going to call it F6. I think F sharp 6. I think it functions more like a C minor 7 flat 5 with the F sharp in the bottom of it. And then it goes to F7, so that's more like a 2-5 in the key of B flat minor. And then he goes to what I'm going to call an F minor 7 flat 5 with a B in the bottom. And then A sharp 7. So that's another 2-5 in a minor key, probably D sharp minor. And then we've got an F sharp with a C sharp in the bass, and then a C minor 7 flat 5, and I think that's more of just from the 1 passing chord, and then this is the 4 minor, B minor 6, and then to the 1 with the 3 in the bottom, and then G sharp minor, and then C sharp, don't talk. This is how I ended up practicing. Close your eyes and be still. Key change. Don't talk. Put your. That's B minor 7, and under that he goes. So back into it.
Jeez.
Listen. Now the middle part. Let's see, I think I want to do it. And then let's see, I think I want to do. And then back. So that middle part after the listen. D sharp minor 7, and then this is going to be like a G sharp 7 with the 7 in the bottom, and then a C sharp in second inversion, and then a B7 with the 7 in the bottom, and then E with the 3 in the bass, and then G sharp fully diminished, then the 1 in first inversion, and then a B fully diminished, and then C sharp minor 7, and then turn that into don't talk for the fate. Da, 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 da.
Wow.
This it's got some of the same moves that God Only Knows has in it. God Only Knows unbelievably is a little simpler than this, but I mean I hear pieces of God Only Knows in this, in some of the chord movement.
Yeah, wow. That, I know I said at the beginning of this song that it's not my favorite, but I get it. Like I don't think I actually got it, because that was that was crazy. Like what in the hell was like I mean, watching you work through that, damn, that is just...
And I had to sit down and think. I mean, I played that a long time ago with some guys, and I remember us struggling with the chord definitions then, you know. I think it'd be this and everything. It really was neat to have Brian's chart on it, to be able to look at a couple of those things and go, oh, even if it wasn't exactly what it's, you know, it gave me the keys I needed on some of that stuff.
Totally.
Just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful song.
Yeah. And geez. Okay, so I'm waiting for the day. So that's where we're at, right?
Right.
Yeah, so yeah.
I want to talk about back to Don't Talk for just a second. I mean, folks have probably noticed I'm using some notes here, and believe me, I want and need them on this episode on some of these tunes. You know, so just to get some of that stuff right. So if you see me
looking and checking your work, totally. So this one, you know, I like this one. I know in this one, you did say in the other episode this is your least favorite, which is like kind of like what I just said about the last one. Is that doesn't mean you don't like it. It just means of all these great songs on here, this is if you had to rank all the songs, you love all the songs, but this one would be ranked the lowest.
And this one would be like, I guess it's the dramatic use of the timpani that actually kind of. You know, I don't know if I really like that part of this tune. It is kind of a straight ahead pop tune. It's not a real hard song.
Yeah, I like this one.
Brian and Mike actually wrote it. I think it has a copyright date of 1964.
Oh, so
it was an earlier tune that was written. So.
Oh, interesting. So, do you want to go through the music on this one then, or
it's kind of a straight ahead pop. I would like to demonstrate one little thing that I thought was cool from Brian's chart on this, where it's an E, 2 F sharp minor 7, and then he has D and then B. So I love that little part of the chord changes, and it's got some neat stuff in the middle too. But it's like I said, the percussion's a little distracting for me on it. I do like I think it's Ray Pullman playing a 6-string bass that's playing those bass lines that just they're scalar, they just come down the scale, but it's a really, I do like that part of the record.
Yeah.
But it's a great tune. It's not up there for me in terms of God Only Knows and Don't Talk.
Right, which is funny that it follows Don't Talk, you know? So, but
it gives a reprieve, you know?
Yeah. So then, in that case, do you want to just move on? Is that all the little musical stuff you want to go over on that one?
Yeah.
Okay. So then let's go away for a while. So this is just like an intermission type deal?
It feels kind of like that, but it's not quite the end of side 1.
Right, which is, I thought, and
Sloop is the last one.
And so I thought that's why I asked that as like a question, because you would think that it would be an intermission would be like at the end of side
could
1.
Be considered a palate cleanser before you get to Sloop, which could be considered a palate cleanser before you got to God Only Knows too.
Okay,
but this is one of those. This is a masterful work that actually Brian put on the B-side of Good Vibrations.
Oh, okay.
And he was quoted in 67 as saying this is one of the most satisfying pieces of music that he ever wrote.
Oh, wow.
And I know I say it in the other episode, but one of his famous an interviewer, the interviewer was asking him why he liked it so much. He goes, try to hum it.
Yeah.
Well, there's no melody on it. So it feels like a soundscape. It feels like a film. It reminds me of that exotica music that was going on in the 60s, like the Martin Denny stuff. But he mentions he was listening to Bacharach at the time, and some of these chord changes show that influence. But it's a wild deal. I mean, it's got all kinds of stuff going on, and some really dissonant stuff that should not work at all. But let's just bring it up and play a little bit of it, just so to me it feels like we could be in Hawaii in a little hut on the beach or something. But we also could be in an apartment in Los Angeles as the sun's going down, and you can see the city lights. And
I like that. Let's see here.
The vibes.
Yeah.
That F note underneath all of that. I like how you explain that. What is intermission?
Yeah.
Well, I don't, and I don't want to, not that that's degrading it at all.
No,
but it feels like an interlude.
Yeah. That's the word. That's actually the word I was
though.
looking for. Interlude, not intermission. Interlude is actually the word I was looking for.
Yeah, it's gorgeous, and both of the instrumentals on here are just. I encourage people to put it on and just immerse yourself in it. It is a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really visual stuff, and you can let it mean whatever comes to you, whatever, however it feels to you. But I don't want to, it's hard to get past the fact that Brian at that time said that was the most satisfying piece of music he ever wrote.
Yeah.
In considering all of Pet Sounds, Good Vibrations, and I think by the time he did that interview, he had done All a Smile too.
Yeah.
So it's a big statement.
Big statement for sure. Okay, so then Sloop John B.
Which we get to Sloop John B, which was hypothesized for years that it never should have gone on the record. Capitol just insisted because it had been a hit before Pet Sounds. But then we come across Brian's handwritten list of tunes for Pet Sounds that he submitted to Capitol, and Sloop John B is on there.
Right. And, I finally listened to I don't know if it was the original, but
the original you probably wasn't even recorded because it was written so long ago,
So I guess when I just searched in like original, like in the like YouTube or whatever, it Kingston Trio came up.
Yeah,
is that one of the?
That's what influenced Al to bring it to Brian, but the Kingston Trio was not the first group to do it. I know,
but it was the one that inspired the Beach Boys. So
lots of folk groups did it before the Kingston Trio did it too.
Okay, so I mean, going off of the Kingston Trio version, which I liked a lot. I thought I'd never heard it, and I thought it was great. I've heard Sloop John B before, obviously from the Beach Boys. I loved the Kingston Trio version. I thought it was great. But then I liked comparing that to the Beach Boys version of, let's like, Beach Boys. It's kind of like a brighter version. It's a little more. I don't know. There's like reimagined for pop almost, like that's kind of how I felt. And like I said, like I don't know, that was kind of just like the overall feeling for me. And then just I don't know. I know this goes on in a lot of Beach Boys music, but the interplay between the lead vocals and the background harmonies in this one really is for me, it was like something that stuck out. And I know, like I said, I know that's in other Beach Boys songs, but for whatever reason, in this song, it just stuck out more.
It's an amazing production. What Al did is bring it to Brian, and Al suggested a couple of chord changes, and Brian even expanded on that. So the biggest thing they did is they took they do it in A flat. So I'll demonstrate the way the Kingston Trio did it. Is they just would have done come on, Sloop John B. Just the and then the 5 E flat. Drinking all night. Got into a fight, 4 chord. Then back to 1, and then 5, and then 1. And so what, Brian puts a couple of minor chords, or Al suggested and Brian put in, or however that happened, they put more dimension into the song, just even with the chords, right? Like down, down, down. Well, some of those things in those spots that really affected harmonically, right? But the big thing, that bass line is just, especially the first part, boom, 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 right? But the signature piece of it is the 2-part arpeggiated guitar intro, which is 5 chord. So anyway, that's good. Carl had to do that and sing it sometimes. I remember I did that with the Wilson project too. It's a hard thing to kind of pull off. But underneath that is this, another guitar. And then it changes with the chords too. People don't know that is there. So that's a 2-part guitar thing on the. As a matter of fact, maybe we can bring up the Sloop John B track. Just the track.
Oh, just the track. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can find that real quick.
Then with that going on in that crazy bass line,
that's
like being inside of a kaleidoscope again, right? I'd like to make a Pet Sounds ride that you could go through and just
totally.
Anyway,
full immersion.
Yeah. So there's not much to say. I mean, there is a lot to say about it. It's a fantastic production again. I remember when Stack of Tracks, or I've read the Rolling Stone, I think, review of Stack of Tracks. Maybe it was another magazine, but they were talking about what's the use of having a bunch of album of Beach Boy tunes without the vocals, and the answer was, have you ever heard Sloop John B without the vocals?
Yeah. Oh, fair.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay, and then that ends
side one.
And then we get into God Only Knows.
Wow.
Which you also did a cover of this.
Mm-hmm. Me and Tristan and Tashina Claridge and Simon Chrisman.
And like these amazing musicians sitting there watching you all just sitting there. Like I even remember like Simon laying on the ground and like listening, and just like, and Tashina like sitting there and just going like, just coming up with their own interpretation of how they were going to present it.
Yeah.
Well, and what does it Simon play again?
A hammered dulcimer.
Yeah, and so I mean, you get
he's one of the world's best hammered dulcimer players.
Yeah, and in fact, I'll probably link the Wouldn't It Be Nice as well as God Only Knows covers too. So if people want to check that out, you could just find that in the description. But hearing the hammer dulcimer is pretty freaking sweet because it's such a unique instrument. But I'll let you take it from here.
Another one where it's just defined by a 1 and the 5 on the front is that's kind of how it's that simple. And I think when I watch Carl play it live, that's what he's doing. But when you put the bass in there, you got turn this into an F sharp minor. Then, the song's in E. A lot of people will say, well, it sounds like it's in a couple other keys. I'm pretty sure it's in E. But I think the front half, the first two chords or the first two measures are a bit of a departure from the key. And so it's almost like it feels like it is in D here. D with an A in the bass, and then a B minor 6. Then we're going to go to F sharp minor, which I think we're back in E now. Then a B7 with a flat 7 in the bottom, and then we're finally at 1, but in second inversion. C, fully diminished there. A lot of people think that's an augmented chord there. That's a fully diminished chord. Back to the 1 in second inversion. And then we've got an A sharp minor 7 flat 5 used as a passing chord to get to this 4. God knows what I'd be without you. So that's one of the parts that reminds me of Don't Talk right there. So I'm going to go through that again. If you should ever leave me. Here's that. And then on the studio version, we got dun 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 dun. So this would be just like A and G chords there. But then we go into the verse of the tune again, but this time it's in A major, except for the deviation on the front. We got a G with a D in the bottom, then E minor 6, and now I think we're back in A, B minor, and then E7, A in second inversion, F diminished, fully diminished, and here's that minor 7 flat 5. But the way he gets back into it, because we're D, God knows what I'd be. So that's A with a C sharp in the bass, and then B minor 7, and then start over. There's that D with the A in the bass, or B minor 7 with the A in the bass. If you should ever. How he got there, I don't know, but it all works so seamlessly and so easy. It's a masterwork that just rolls like easy water.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that song. I mean, there's a reason why it is.
We're talking about, a lot of people, including Paul McCartney and others, would say that's the best. That's the best tune.
Yeah, yeah. Do we want to carry on then?
We could talk about God Only Knows forever, but we gotta get on to.
It's funny.
Hang on to your ego.
Hang on to your ego. Is that the original?
The original name.
Yeah,
I know there's
an
edge. I knew you'd catch that.
Yeah.
I was gonna just try to throw you up.
So right from the start for this one, I was in, and I think it's because I'm a sucker for a good bass line, and I love this bass line.
It's a blues bass line.
Is that what's going on?
Yeah.
And then there's also a little, you might get into this, but like a little keyboard thing going on kind of in the background. That I really liked.
Yeah. So a little sliding. A little bluesy
slip
there.
And then The only other thing I have is what's the instrument is on the breakdown?
There's a banjo. Glenn Campbell strumming a banjo in the middle of this one.
Is that it's pretty distinct?
Oh, a bass harmonica, maybe.
Is that what it is?
Wow!
Yeah.
Wah, wah. Yeah,
It's a very unique sound.
Yes, that's a bass harmonica.
Okay, and I just because it was. I don't think I'd ever really heard a sound. At least that up front, and I think it's on the breakdown anyway.
Yeah, on one of the studio outtakes of this, he asked Brian, he goes, do you want me to kind of, play softly there? You go, no, we want you to wail on that baby.
Oh, interesting. Okay, all right. Okay, I'll let you take it over.
Well, this is Carol Kay. She called it Brian's Royal Blues, is what she felt like it was. Because I know so many people that think they can do it. There's that bluesy bass line you're talking about right there. You know what I mean? Isolate their heads and stay in their safety zone. Change keys. Da, 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 kind of what's just going on in the whole song. It's kind of it's a basic tune with a couple of interesting shots thrown in there.
Kind of, it's one of the falls into that more that camp for the songs.
Yeah, but it's still it's. I don't want to give the production is amazing and intricate and all that stuff. Just comparatively to some of the other tunes, it's a simpler tune.
Which is kind of funny because, you go from God Only Knows to kind of a simpler tune, and then Don't Talk, and you kind of went to kind of another simpler tune. So
none of them are simple,
but simpler.
Yeah,
more simple.
Maybe he was sequencing it like that. You bet.
And so then, do you just want to go on then or is there anything else you want to cover?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and go on
here today. There's something about the verses in this one that had this. I don't know. I like the entire movement from verse to I think what would be called a pre-chorus to the chorus. That whole movement is great, but then there's just this subtle groove that I don't know. It's not as in your face as this groovy song, but I don't know. There's this. The best way to describe it is a subtle groove that I just really really hit for me. This might be one of my favorites because of this kind of sneaky groove that's going on, and that's that's pretty much it. The only other thing, and this could be one of my completely off, but the organ or synth thing at the beginning kind of reminded me of Good Vibrations.
That's what I was just gonna get. It's related to Good Vibrations, and I wonder if they were. Good Vibrations, he started working on it during Pet Sounds, and other people have heard that relationship too. So kudos.
And I don't know if that was actually maybe I subtly heard that and we brought it up in the other one. I actually don't know, but
no, that's a great observation, and it's got a march feel to it, and I'll go ahead and play some of this because it starts with B minor and with an A in the bottom. It starts with just glance now. A da da da. Dun, 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 dun. So that A bass note's going on underneath both of those chords, right? See how they're kind of tying them together and almost like it's just barely a chord change, right? And then you've got a band. So what that is, I'm just playing a chord for every beat because the bass line does that, but some of the other instruments do too. So I've got D, A, C sharp bass, B minor, A bass, then G sharp minor 7 flat 5, then C sharp, and then F sharp minor 7, and then A7 again, and then F sharp minor 7 again. Now back to C sharp 7 or C sharp, F sharp minor. Then change that to C sharp minor 7, and then a big E7, and then we're gonna go. I could have thought. Sounds more like that, but it was easier to higher. It was just easier to demonstrate that way. But cool song.
Yeah, no, this
really
is,
cool song.
Really dug that.
Got kind of a march feel to me.
Yeah, and actually,
but so does Good Vibrations and stomps and parts too. It's kind of a stomping feel.
Yeah. Which I tend to like those a little more anyway. So, moving on then. I just wasn't made for these times. I mean, I think so. For me on this, there's this like, first of all, I think the lyrics match the feel very well in this song, in the sense of the feel is almost like this out of place for me. It's like out of place feeling. I don't know. Yeah,
no, there's a lot of, when we start going through the chords
unsettling
here,
almost.
yes, the chords are unsettling. The feel is some places. It's supposed to not work. Tommy Tedesco has a famous thing, I think, in this tune where he said he told Brian, he goes, man, it's just not going to work. And he didn't know what it was going to be when it was all put together with the vocals, though, and everything like that. But there are some unsettling things.
Is there like this like haunting instrument? Like it almost sounds like a ghost or something.
That's that theremin. This is the first time he used the theremin, or actually a tannerin, not an actual theremin, but it's the first time he used the instrument that he would go on to use in Good Vibrations.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Just like sounds like a ghost.
Yeah. Like, and this is the one I was listening to, the Malcolm Leo film in the mid '80s, and they had this going on behind some footage of them being in Hawaii, and I'd never heard this song before, and I think I've told you this before. It was like, oh my, this is one of those tunes. I hadn't heard Pet Sounds yet.
Oh.
And I said, oh, this is one of the, oh my God, I've got to find that thing again, because this tune blew my mind.
Yeah.
And then when I did get Pet Sounds and I mean, this song was an everydayer for me,
Yeah. No, that, and I'll let you, take it from here. Did you want me to play something off of this one?
I just want to, I love the bass line's really intricate, along with the very intricate chords. Just go ahead and I
can just play
play the tune off the record, and I think they'll be able to hear the stuff underneath the vocals.
I keep looking for a place to fit in, where I can speak my mind, and I've been trying hard to find the people that I won't leave behind.
Diminished chord.
They say I got brains, but they ain't
Goosebumps all over the place. Okay. You'll have to pick me up off the ceiling if we keep playing that. I'm going to just start diving into this baby. For years, I thought, what is the chord that starts the beginning of this thing? It's in B flat, and it's a B flat with a C in the bottom, so it's a poly chord. And then I'm going to call it B flat add 9. Then A flat 9. And then F with G in the bottom. Diminish, F diminish, and then E flat, D minor 7, G minor 7, and then F with G in the bottom. Finally, that diminished again. And this right here is this is one of those unsettling things, and I think this was the part that Tommy Tedesco was talking about, not necessarily this chord movement and bass line thing, but this is where it goes, each time things start to happen again. It's basically an E flat to an F, pretty basic, right? But all with the C underneath it. Each time things start to happen again, think I got something good going for myself. But then F7 says, minor 7 to F7. Then E flat major 7, A7, and then F with G in the bottom, and then the F diminished chord, and then C minor. This is the last line. C minor 7, and then D minor 7 with the C in the bass, and then C minor 7, and then C minor 7 with the F in the bottom, and then we're gonna go B flat with a C in the bottom, and then and then you've got the weird do 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 do.
Yeah. That was so cool to see you do that like that. I mean, I liked that song, but you just made me really like that song after isolating it and playing it like that. That was really cool to see that little groovy part in there too. That was, wasn't kind of unsettling, but felt a little.
Yeah, well, and of course I was treating it with a little bit different feel. Than what was going on. It's just I've talked before about the musical buffet that these things are for musicians, especially because there's so much depth to go into, and just you can just do deep dives on everything.
Well, yeah. So do you want to step over into Pet Sounds?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
So, before you break it down, what is this? Another just an instrumental? Mm-hmm. Didn't have that same sort of interlude feel that the other one did.
It's got a melody.
Yeah,
the guitar's playing a melody line.
I loved it. I loved the feel.
Now, do you remember about this one? This was one that originally was called "Run James Run," and he was going to submit it to. I don't know if he ever did, but he was thinking about submitting it for a James Bond movie.
Yep.
And if you think about that, and then think of a James Bond movie with him maybe running and down, it really.
Well, I mean, it just the feel is a lot. It's more happier. I don't know if happier is the right word, but a little more upbeat, that like almost triumphant, or I get when you put it in like the context of James Bond, they have like I don't even know what the word would be, like badass.
I get what you're. It's upbeat. It's still, there's some happiness to it, but there's still a blues aspect of it. Like even the. That's real bluesy right there. Dum, 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 dum.
I like
also the Latin percussion. That's that Wiro thing, the fish with the ridges on it with the stick.
Totally. I like that it comes after this song, and in fact, now that we're coming towards the end here, I didn't know this initially, but like now I see like these I like these pairings on a couple of these where the song before has kind of like a they complement, yin and yang sort of complement to them, and it's several times through the album. That's one thing that I just realized with this, but
I've never really thought of it in terms like that. The whole thing just seems to flow really nicely. Obviously, people call it, the first concept album, or, it just seems to flow so well.
Yeah, and the balance, if something flow well, it's got to have a nice balance. And I think that I see this with these, with these specific songs that might feel a certain way, and then, one that kind of feels not necessarily the opposite, but closer to the opposite. So that's, I mean, do you want to get into more of the Pet Sound stuff here?
No, I don't. I think that's another one for people to listen to, and now this is a whole different feeling and visual for me than Let's Go Away for a While. It's definitely, so it is that, movie soundtrack kind of thing, or action film, or as opposed to laid back on the beach or in the apartment type deal. I would really encourage people to not pass the instrumentals up.
Oh, for sure.
Just let yourself wallow in them. They're really
that's a good piece of advice, actually.
Yeah.
All right, Caroline, no.
And another big one.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just gonna, it's great. I don't, it's just one of those ones, like, I don't know why. There's nothing really that pops out to me. I'm sure that you going through this, it's something well, but, just listening, it's just like, I just know I like it and it's good, but I don't really know exactly, what specifics are making it feel the way it does. So I'll let you just take it.
Well, it's the end of the album. It's the loss of innocence. It's that, that's been hopeful and everything. It's the end of the deal, right?
Right.
So it does have that wistful quality to it. The Brian calls it almost like a Glenn Miller track, a big band thing. I know I can see where some of the chord movement maybe in the middle, I can relate to that, but it's just beautiful. Bruce Johnston talks about what an amazing song this is. Carl Wood introduced it on the In Concert '73 album, said it's always been one of my favorite tunes that Brian wrote. It's funny to look at Brian's chart on it, and I've seen other people interpret it this way too. He interprets it as minor chords to open it. With, obviously, he's kind of thinking of the chords and the bass line separately. So he's got the opening, he's got, but the way he builds the chord, and I'm going to play this, I need to say this, I'm going to play this in F, which is where they recorded it. And I don't know if you remember, but at the suggestion of Murray, I think it was, Brian sped the track up so it's a half pitch higher than this on the record. But if you listen to the track only sections of Caroline, No, it'll be in this key. As a matter of fact, there's one last thing I want you to pull up. Caroline, No instrumental. Pay attention to that harpsichord. God, that is a beautiful piece of writing right there. Okay, let's go ahead and cut. I'd like to hear the whole thing. So,
yeah, seriously.
Instead of playing the bass part and the guitar, I'm going to do a guitar approximation of what that harpsichord is doing. And so that was actually in the higher key. So this is down in F here. So that much right there, I'm calling that, we're going from a G6, I think he would have called it E minor with a G in the bottom of it, but it's basically the same thing. G6. For the second half of the major, we go to G6 add 9, and then slide that shape down to the F. Same two shapes, and the bass is doing that. I'll do the last two. Then G minor with a C in the bottom, and then A minor with a C in the bottom. So we've kept that all the way until now when we get down to F major 7, which is the key right there. So I'm going to do that little section one more time. G minor, C bass, and then A minor, C. That almost sounds like the same chord, just little tiny differences, then back into a C. Now, break my heart. And then C major 7. Then right here, B minor 7 flat 5, E7, A minor 7, and then the chord on the end, F minor with an A flat. It's kind of like that chord on the end of You Still Believe in Me. So again, the bridge, D minor 7, G in the bottom, C major 7, B minor 7 flat 5, E7, A minor 7. Then the A or F minor with A flat in the bottom. Anyway,
Here we are. Jeez.
Yeah, dogs bark, trains go by.
Yeah. And mind is blown.
Yeah. It really is. I feel like we just scratched the surface again, but hopefully it gives
and
some
scratching the
people
surface.
some.
We're still going to be at like almost an hour and a half, and that's us thinking that. Well, we talked about this. We're only going to do the music, so it's probably going to be a pretty quick episode.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, everybody.
Here we are. But it was good, man. It's good to see, to have you explain and isolate stuff, man. It can give you a whole different perspective on their stuff. And this album, especially being, in the, being this renowned album that it is, it just, this was a tall order, for you to go through the music and
hey, it's a tall order for a guy that's been listening to it for a long time, and it's just. I think when you came in this morning, we were talking about how for an album that's considered one of the greatest of all time. I mean, I still don't think most of the people that even consider it the greatest album of all time have no idea of the complexity
of what's actually going on.
Yeah. I mean, it lives up to everything. When he said, Marilyn, I'm going to make the greatest rock and roll album of all time. Some people say this isn't rock and roll, but it's pop. It's so many different things. It's pop, jazz, classical, rock, whatever you want to call it. He was, he's making his music. This is Brian's music.
Yep. Well, that I'm gonna need a nap after that. So, like I said, we're gonna try to get another one of these out. Our schedules, we have some gaps, and we're gonna try to get together. Smile. What are we doing next?
There's one more song standalone thing that really probably should happen. I've been struggling with this because I know Brian didn't want Good Vibrations on Smile, but I know that Capitol said it's got to be on Smile, and obviously because the front cover slick underneath Smile, the Beach Boys. Look at that box set over there. What does it say? Good Vibrations, Good Vibrations, Good Vibrations. So. And Good Vibrations is not really a complicated song. It's a complicated production. It's a neat arrangement and everything, and there's some cool stuff going on, but chord-wise, it's not real tough. So you don't probably Smile, maybe Smile. And
but you're saying you're having a hard time with it
because it's their biggest song. It's their biggest, it's their number one, the thing that gave him, after the disappointment of Pet Sounds. And then, like I say in that last episode, or when we did that other Smile episode, I think where he rolled the dice on this because Good Vibrations production wise was even more avant-garde and out of the norm than Pet Sounds, and then he has it go to number one.
And I'm really not familiar with Smile.
Right.
At, you know,
Right.
so
So that's gonna be-
a lot of that is going to be me hearing it for the first
You're
time.
gonna be blown away, man. You know, I don't say it's any better music than what's on Pet Sounds for sure. It's a different style of writing. It's a whole new bag for him. It's it's two completely different things.
Yeah.
You know, and then as we go through everything in the late 60s, you know, just everything was different product, different style.
Yeah.
Proving that he's not just a one-trick pony, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, we'll see you in the next episode. Probably going to be Smile. If not, it'll be a little surprise. You know, maybe it'll be Good Vibrations just on its own. Who knows? We'll see what happens. So, thank you as always for supporting, watching, listening, sharing. We keep this going because of all that. So, thank you very much, and we will see you in the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you.